In a world addicted to noise, silence becomes the sharpest blade. Everyone talks, everyone explains, justifies, persuades. They flood the room with sound, hoping to drown out their own uncertainty. But the one who rules does not need to speak. He does not rush. He does not fill silence, he inhabits it. Silence is not absence. It is presence, intensified. You walk into a room and feel it before anything is said. A man who holds his posture, who does not reach for his phone, he does not smile to be liked. He simply is, and in his stillness, something shifts. The weak speak to reassure themselves, the powerful remain quiet to observe. Control begins not with command, but with listening. Machiavelli understood this. Power was never loud. Real power waits, it watches. It sees everything without being seen. It lets others reveal themselves through their desperation, through their performance, through their hunger for attention. The one who rules does not compete in this theater. He owns the stage by not performing. You cannot lead others if you are led by the need to be heard. And so, silence becomes your domain, the space where others project their hopes, their fears, their expectations onto you. They imagine you agree, or that you disagree. They create narratives in their heads just to explain your stillness. They beg for clarity but you give none, and in that void, your power grows. People fear silence because it exposes them, but the one who masters it commands. This kind of presence is rare. It is not gifted. It is forged through restraint, through self-command, through learning to be at peace without external validation. Machiavelli's prince was not the loudest voice in the court. He was the one whose silence made others uncertain, the one whose gaze made others measure their words, the one who said little and meant everything. You do not dominate by interruption. You dominate by allowing others to unravel themselves. Silence, then, is not a retreat. It is not passivity, it is strategic. It holds back until it becomes unbearable and then strikes. Not with words, but with inevitability. Those who can control their mouths can control outcomes. Those who need to speak need approval, and those who rule need nothing. The less you say, the more you hear, the less you explain, the more they believe. Silence is the throne from which true power speaks. You do not need to announce your value. You do not need to prove it. The moment you try, you've already given it away. Real presence is not volume. It is gravity, a quiet kind of weight that alters the atmosphere. It is not about being seen. It is about being felt. You enter a space. You do not rush to smile. You do not explain who you are. You allow the room to adjust to your rhythm. You are not chasing approval, you are measuring reality. You take in what is there. The faces, the body language, the openings. Those who rule do not compete. They command by contrast. Where others lean forward, you lean back. Where they try to charm, you observe. Where they seek validation, you create mystery. You are not cold but you are not available, and that distance becomes power. Machiavelli understood that the one who appears most controlled becomes the anchor in any room. When others are anxious to be liked, the man who doesn't chase becomes the one they circle around, not because he asks but because they sense he does not need. That is what presence is. It is a quiet refusal to collapse. Not all energy is loud. Some of it is sharp, directed, coiled. Some of it holds, some of it waits, and that waiting it makes others tremble, because they can predict what comes next, and they fear what they cannot read. The one who rules does not reveal his hand, he watches you reveal yours. This doesn't mean passivity, it means precision. You speak when it shifts the room, you act when the timing is yours. You do not move on impulse, you move on purpose. And the less others know about what drives you, the more they are moved by it. Presence comes from self-possession, from knowing you do not need to be seen to exist. You are no longer trying to prove your story. You are not fighting to be understood. You do not argue to correct others' perceptions. You are simply there, solid, present, not swayed, not looking for a role to play. When you drop the need to perform, the world starts watching. Machiavelli's insight wasn't about cruelty, it was about clarity. He saw what made people bare their heads, and it wasn't screaming. It wasn't dominance through volume, it was the unshakable man. The man who spoke little, but was never silenced. The man who looked directly at the truth without needing to dress it in ceremony. Others fill the room with words, you fill it with weight. The moment you trust the power of your silence, you stop fighting for space. Because now, you are the space, you are the center around which things rotate not by force, but by force of being. This is the presence that bands others without raising a hand. When you no longer chase attention, it begins to orbit you. Power does not announce itself, it is recognized. To survive, you learn to wear a mask. But to rule, you learn to design it. Machiavelli did not teach deceit. He taught strategy. He understood that people fear what they cannot name, and so, the most dangerous man is not the one who hides, but the one who hides in plain sight. The mask is not a lie, it is a filter. It lets you show the world just enough. Not everything, never everything, because the more they think they know you, the easier you are to control. But when your face is a mirror, when people see in you only what they want to see, then you are untouchable. Because they are not reacting to you, they are reacting to themselves. This is the paradox of power. The less you reveal, the more they imagine. A ruler who exposes all becomes predictable, and what is predictable can be attacked, manipulated, dismissed. But a man with a mask, he becomes myth. He becomes story. He becomes larger than any single trait. You are not cold. You are concealed. You are not dishonest. You are deliberate. And this distinction makes all the difference. In a world obsessed with authenticity, the masked man is terrifying, because he cannot be controlled by emotional logic. He is not acting from woundedness. He is acting from calculation, and this removes the familiar script, the emotional hooks, the predictable reactions. When others seek intimacy, you offer enigma. Not because you are afraid, but because you know that mystery is leverage. The mask is your shield. It absorbs projection. It reflects confusion. It keeps your core intact while you move through environments that would otherwise devour you. This is not about detachment. It is about dominance through containment. When you master the mask, you no longer play by the rules of transparency. You play by the rules of tension. You build pressure. You withhold just enough. You create the kind of silence that draws people in, because they need to understand what they're looking at. And that need, they will call it respect. They will call it magnetism, but what they feel is your control. Not over them, but over yourself. This is what Machiavelli admired, the man who did not need to show strength to be strong. The man whose restraint became the sharpest threat in the room. You do not owe the world your truth, you owe it your impact. And the more refined your mask, the deeper your reach. Because in silence, behind the mask, you are free to choose. Free to observe, free to act, free to remain still while others burn their energy revealing themselves. The mask is not weakness, it is power, sculpted. The one who reveals too soon loses everything before the game has even begun. You do not need to push someone to move them, you only need to stand where they want to be. Machiavelli knew that the most effective manipulation is invisible. Not a command, not a threat, but a shift in the air. A suggestion that feels like a decision. A pull that seems internal, when you touch nothing but change everything. This is not magic, this is design. You understand how people think, what they want, what they fear, what they hide. And without telling them anything, you offer them the illusion of freedom while guiding them exactly where you need them to go. You do not take control, you let them give it to you. Most people seek approval. They want to be seen, heard, validated. They want to believe they are choosing for themselves. And this hunger makes them pliable, not because they are weak, but because they are blind to the mechanisms moving inside them. You are not here to overpower anyone. You are here to make yourself the answer to their unspoken need. You do not force the door, you become the key. You make yourself useful, desirable, inevitable, but never obvious, never loud. You don't chase. You don't demand. You let them arrive at the conclusion you planted long ago. And when they do, they believe it was theirs. This is the highest art of influence, when they follow you, thinking they led. The moment you demand loyalty, you lose it. The moment you ask for obedience, you plant resistance. But if they choose you, if they believe you are the safest path, the most powerful ally, the clearest mirror, then they give you access without resistance. This is not manipulation in the cruel sense, it is the understanding that power rarely needs to shout. True impact is subtle, silent, felt, not declared. You do not move the chess pieces with your hands. You tilt the board, you don't attack their defenses, you make them obsolete. You become the condition in which decisions unfold. You become the context others band toward. Not by demanding space, but by becoming the only shape that fits the puzzle. Machiavelli understood that the strongest hold is the one that leaves no bruise. The most enduring control is the one that looks like agreement. You don't win by breaking people. You win by making them believe they have already chosen you. And the brilliance of this path is that there is no resistance, no rebellion, because the fight never began. It is not dominance, it is direction. It is not conquest, it is choreography. And you are not the one in front of the curtain. You are the pulse beneath the stage. Real control is not imposed. It is accepted, and those who accept it never realize they surrendered anything at all. Power that seeks to be loved becomes a performance. Power that accepts fear becomes a presence. This is not cruelty, this is clarity. The man who tries to be liked by all becomes a servant. He bends, he compromises, he softens his edge until there is nothing left to cut with. In the name of peace, he becomes invisible, and in his need to be understood, he is no longer respected. Machiavelli saw what few dared to admit, that fear has gravity. Not the fear of violence, but the fear of uncertainty. The fear of what you might do. The fear of what you might see and say nothing about. That fear makes people adjust. It makes them careful. It makes them listen. You do not need to be brutal. You only need to remain unreadable. Respect is born in mystery. And mystery is maintained in silence. The less others know of your limits, the more they imagine. And imagination is far more powerful than fact. The moment they believe they know you, you have lost your edge. But if they cannot place you, if they are unsure of where they stand with you, they will tread carefully. And that care becomes reverence. This is not about being feared for fear's sake. It is about the distance that breeds respect. The space between you and the world, that space must be protected. Too much closeness kills respect. Too much accessibility dissolves influence. A leader does not walk among the crowd like a friend, he stands apart. Not because he is better, but because he carries weight. He is not there to be loved. He is there to hold structure, and structure demands distance. Your shadow must be longer than your words. Let them wonder what you are thinking. Let them ask themselves if they've gone too far. Let them feel the edge of something behind your silence. That edge, that quiet severity will do more than any raised voice ever could. And when you do act, when you do speak, do so with precision, with sharpness, with restraint. One word, placed right, becomes a weapon. One gesture, calmly delivered, can change an entire room. There is no need to threaten. Your very presence should make them remember the cost of crossing you. Machiavelli understood that it is better to be feared than loved. When love fades, fear remains. But he did not mean terror, he meant respect born of restraint. Dignity sharpened by discipline, calm shaped by force. They do not need to like you. They need to believe that beneath your stillness lies something they do not want to awaken. True power does not announce itself, it casts a shadow, and the longer the shadow, the more carefully the world steps around you. Words are easy, they are everywhere. Everyone uses them, most waste them. A gesture, though it is rare, it is deliberate. It does not beg to be understood. It simply lands, and the silence after it says more than 1,000 explanations ever could. The world has been trained to listen to noise, to arguments, to statements, to shouted declarations of intent. But words are wind, they scatter, they dilute, and the more you speak, the less they remember. But a gesture precise, quiet, sharp cuts through everything. Machiavelli knew this. Power does not live in speeches, it lives in moments. The way you enter a room, the way you hold a pause, the way your eyes stop on someone just long enough. These things linger, they etch themselves into memory, they build tension, and tension builds authority. You do not need to correct people, let your silence do it for you. You do not need to declare your disappointment, let the absence of your warmth say it louder. You do not need to justify your boundaries, enforce them once with clarity and they will speak for you forever. In a world addicted to reaction, the one who moves slowly, who moves with purpose, becomes a force. A raised eyebrow, a single nod, a pause where others would rush to speak. These are not habits, these are weapons, subtle ones, controlled ones, the kinds of weapons that leave no trace, but change the entire game. You are not performing, you are setting the rhythm, and once the rhythm is yours, everything else adjusts. Others fill the space because they fear emptiness, but you allow space to speak for you. That space becomes your domain, a field of influence, a place where people lean in, waiting for something, not realizing they've already been shaped. The loudest man in the room is always the weakest. He needs his noise to create illusion, but the silent one, the one whose movements are exact, that is the one who shapes outcomes. Machiavelli would tell you, don't tell people who you are, let them feel it. Don't assert power, embody it. Don't chase influence, become gravity. Because in a world of empty noise, your stillness becomes magnetic. The gesture you control is more powerful than the words they forget. And once you realize that nothing can silence you, people do not follow the strongest voice, they follow the clearest presence. They do not bow to dominance, they bow to certainty. When you carry yourself with composure, when you move without explaining, without defending, without needing, they begin to orbit you. Not because you force them, but because in a chaotic world, you have become still. And stillness is magnetic. Machiavelli saw that people crave direction. They do not want to lead, they want to trust. They want to hand over the weight of decision, and they give that power to the one who appears most unmoved. Not the loudest, not the smartest, but the one who remains unchanged while others tremble. There is something primal in this. In a moment of crisis, eyes shift to the one who does not panic. The one who stands when others fold, the one who listens, watches, absorbs and then acts without flinching. This man becomes the axis. He does not demand followers, he becomes the default. Submission begins here, not in threat, not in persuasion, but in calm command. A command that needs no voice, a presence that carries its own laws. You do not need titles to be obeyed, you need alignment. Alignment between your words and your actions, between your energy and your posture, between your silence and your intention. When these align, people stop questioning you. They feel it, deeply, unconsciously. It is not about charisma, it is about coherence. The fractured man creates anxiety. The coherent man creates gravity. Machiavelli did not romanticize this. He understood that humans are drawn to symbols, symbols of safety, symbols of strength. And when you become that symbol, when your every movement suggests stability, they give you access to their trust. But trust is not a gift, it is a structure, and you must build it without ever asking for it. The moment you seek validation, you lose the image. But when you embody resolve, when you stop chasing and start anchoring, you become a refuge. And refuge is power. The psychology of submission is simple. People submit to what they perceive as unshakable. And that perception is built not by speech, but by repetition. By how you hold your gaze, by how you do not react, by how you exit a room without apology, leaving a silence too heavy to ignore. You are not looking for followers, you are becoming someone worth following. Not because you say the right things, but because you move like someone who doesn't need to. And when people feel that you don't have to convince them, they convince themselves. The strongest form of control is not forced. It is chosen, and when people choose you as their anchor, you no longer led through power, you lead through presence. Some men fight for power with noise, with declarations, with endless resistance. And then there is the one who wins quietly, without force, without spectacle, without being seen until it is already too late. This is not luck, this is architecture. He does not rush. He lets others tire themselves with shouting. He lets them argue, expose themselves, burn through their strength. While they perform, he positions. While they defend, he waits. Victory, for him, is not an act of dominance, it is the collapse of the opponent's illusion. He has already seen what they refuse to see, their weakness, their thirst, their insecurity dressed as aggression. He does not need to confront it. He simply steps aside as they run past the edge. Machiavelli understood. The most efficient form of conquest is not destruction. It is erosion. You do not strike. You outlast. You do not react. You absorb. You do not oppose. You let others become their own downfall. This is how true power moves. Invisibly, it does not rush into war, it makes the war unnecessary. Because by the time others realize they've been displaced, the outcome has already settled. No scars, no glory, just silence and the undeniable shift of control. Others will not understand how it happened. They will say you were lucky. They will say you said nothing. They will say you did nothing. And they will be right. Because doing nothing, when done from power, is doing everything. You do not need credit, you do not need applause, you are not interested in recognition. You are interested in results, and results obey those who are not distracted by ego. You are not playing the same game as them. While they seek reaction, you shape reality. While they fight for the stage, you own the script. There is no struggle. There is only alignment. When the moment comes, you act without hesitation. One move placed with quiet precision and everything rearranges itself. This is not about waiting passively, this is about waiting with readiness. You are not idle, you are listening, watching, reading the current, and when the current turns, you are already there. The silent victory leaves no trail, no blood, no wound. Just clarity, just finality. No one saw it coming, but now, they cannot unsee it. The ultimate power is not in what you take but in what you let fall into your hands without resistance. The world remembers noise, but it obeys silence. At the end of all strategies, or restraint, or silence, there remains only one thing. You. Not the mask, not the image, not the role you've played to move the world. You, the man beneath the weight, the man who needed nothing. Not because he had everything, but because he remembered who he was before the noise. Machiavelli never said to lose yourself. He said to know yourself so deeply that the world could not touch you. To rule without a word is not about controlling others. It is about reaching a place where no part of you needs to be controlled anymore. You are no longer reactive. You are no longer driven by need. You are no longer seeking approval, dominance, or admiration. You are simply rooted, still, alive in your own presence. You don't chase loyalty because you are loyal to yourself. You don't demand love because you move with self-respect. You don't beg for peace because you've made peace with your own power. This is the man who cannot be seduced, because he does not need to be wanted. This is the man who cannot be broken, because he stopped clinging to what can be taken. You return to yourself not as the person who once tried to be everything, but as the one who has shed everything that wasn't real. The silence is now natural, not a tactic, but a state. The mask is no longer needed, not because you are vulnerable, but because you have become whole. The gestures, the posture, the weight you carry, it is no longer strategy. It is who you are, and now, the world responds, not to your words, not to your intentions, but to your being. You are no longer a player in the game, you are the space in which the game unfolds. Not because you fought harder, but because you stopped needing to fight at all. You have become the storm and the calm after, the threat and the refuge, the authority and the silence, and now when you walk into a room, you don't need to speak. They feel it, they know, they remember. True power is not about how many people listen to you. It is about how many change without you saying a word. The return to the self is the end of control and the beginning of command.